Hey, everybody. Um, Very saddened to hear about the passing of Ginger Baker. He was 80 years old, and it was interesting. I just saw Eric Clapton play last week in Dallas at the Crossroads Festival, and Eric sounded phenomenal. But he is 74 years old. As a matter of fact, one of the youngest guys to play there, other than Marcus King and some of the real young people, was Peter Frampton, who's 69. This reminds me of there's an article that I saw that came out a couple months ago. It was August 31st, so just about a month and a half ago, and it was called "The Coming Death of Just About Every Rock Legend," and I sent it to my older sister Pat, and we were talking about it, and sent it to some of my other friends, and this is more of a classic rock that we're talking about. Dave Mustaine, like that. Rock will never die. There we go. But it puts things into perspective. It says. Behold the killing fields that lie before us. Then it lists the ages of people. Bob Dylan, 78. Paul McCartney, 77. Paul Simon, 77. Art Garfunkel, 77. Carole King, 77. Brian Wilson, 77. Mick Jagger, 76. Keith Richards, 75. Joni Mitchell, 75. Jimmy Page, 75. Robert Plant, 71. Ray Davies, 75. Roger Daltrey, 75. Pete Townsend, 74. Roger Waters, 75. David Gilmour, 73. Rod Stewart, 74. Clapton, 74. Debbie Harry, 74. Neil Young, 73. Van Morrison, 73. Brian Ferry, 73. Elton John, 72. Don Henley, 72. Billy Joel, 70. Bruce Springsteen, 70. Then we had Peter Frampton at 69, like I said, a youngster. And we just lost Ginger Baker at age 80. So it basically talks about the fact that the people that created rock and roll music, rock music, that there's no one to replace them, because it kind of talks about this earlier in the record, or early in the article. And it said, it used some interesting examples. It says, though popular music sales in general have plummeted since their peak around the turn of the millennium, certain genres continue to generate commercial excitement. Pop, rap, hip-hop, country, but rock, amplified and often distorted electric guitars and bass drums, melodic and frequently abrasive lead vocals, with songs usually penned exclusively by the band members, right, not by a bunch of producers, barely registers on the charts. Now, this is where it gets, there aren't really no charts that matter at this point. But then it says it uses Canada's Big Wreck. It sells its sophisticated progressive hard rock, for example. While they're more subdued than the American band Dawes, artfully expands, blah, blah, blah. These groups often toil in relative obscurity, selling a few thousand records at a time, performing to modest-sized crowds in clubs and theaters. Okay, now, it uses the example of Big Wreck, who's been around since 1997. I think that they got their first record deal. So I wouldn't say that they're a contemporary band. So this generation of people are dying. I mean, let's face it. I mean, they're dying because they've reached they're reached their life expectancy. But it's interesting to think there's really not a lot of people to replace them, the article argues. Then I came across this interesting Pete Townsend thing that I want to read to you. This is something that Pete said in an interview recently. It says, "The guitar may be losing ground, but in part that's because if you spend an hour on Instagram or YouTube," and by the way, I know that Pete Townsend has an Instagram. I can't remember what his handle is, but he is on Instagram under a fake name, and he goes and listens to guitar players. And he says, you'll quickly discover unknown people playing the guitar the way the great orchestral violinists Menuhin once might have played this instrument. I mean, virtuosic things that you will see on Instagram. And it says, there are virtuosos of the highest order. They can shred like Eddie Van Halen or play jazz like John McLaughlin. They've literally exhausted all the possibilities of the guitar. This kind of virtuosity is already happening with beatbox-based rap and laptop-supported pop. Everything will change again, maybe faster than it did for guitar music. Who knows? He continued, is it, meaning guitar-based rock and roll, that is losing ground, not rock itself? Hip-hop is rock to my ears. Music for the neighborhood, the street, the disenfranchised, the downtrodden, the young, the ignored. What used to be what I was focused on. Now I try to write real operas and want my stage work to be like art installations. And why not? So it's interesting, right? That Pete Townsend sees hip-hop as the rock music of today, and says that if you go on Instagram, which I go on all the time, and please follow me on Instagram at RickBeato1, but Instagram is a place for the guitar. Well, so is YouTube. I would argue that these things have just shifted. And I've heard some of the greatest guitar playing ever on Instagram. I mean, things that I never thought were possible on the guitar. I agree with Pete about that. I don't think, though, that I think that the point that he's making is that the rock stars, or maybe it's that the money that you can make doesn't exist in rock music. That might be his what he's saying there, but he's saying that this has been exhausted, all the possibilities on the guitar, which I really don't necessarily agree with. I think some of the most interesting things that are out there guitar-wise is on Instagram and on YouTube. And it's really exciting. It's not rock in the traditional sense of bands like Cream, bands like Derek and the Dominoes or the Rolling Stones or the Beatles, okay? But people are doing things on guitar, a lot of it that's being supported by the progressive metal community, to be honest with you, which I think is which I think is a really open place for people. I think that people that are guitar fans, people that would have listened to Eddie Van Halen or Steve Vai or Joe Satriani or things like that, or Eric Johnson, or people that earlier generations, David Gilmour, Jimmy Page, Jeff Beck, go to Instagram to see things like that, or come here to YouTube to see it. Bruno just says masses just don't consume it anymore. Now, I don't know if that's true either, because masses are consuming, if you look at the numbers of plays of songs, if you take, some commercial songs that are on Spotify, on YouTube, you'll find, and stop with all the Greta Van Fleet things. Greta Van Fleet is thank you, Randy, very much. Greta Van Fleet is not a movement, okay? That there's not a movement in commercial music in the same way that there were movements in rock in the 60s, for example, in the 70s. Now, Subi just said the jam scene is alive and well. And you guys know that I talk about that a lot. And the reason that jam music, I believe, is always done well, and what I think would help rock music is improvisation. I really think that people being able to improvise is extremely important. It makes every show different. This is why John Mayer is still huge. This is why Joe Bonamassa still can sell huge amounts of tickets. Improvisation is something that makes your shows different every night. Okay, this is really, the songwriting part of it that is moved by consuming through the radio, that is gone. Okay, the new gatekeepers are Spotify, the people that run Spotify, the people that run Apple Music, the people that run these huge streaming services. There are there are gatekeepers there that are the A&R people of the old days. Okay, they're getting paid off in the same ways. I mean, let's be honest with it. One of the most important things for major label artists is to be on Spotify playlists. Okay, one of the reasons that I'm on here on YouTube is to try to do what I can to level the playing field and give out as much free information about how to play things, you know, whether it's playing rock music or what makes this song great, or doing the 20 greatest guitar solos of all time, or doing a video on my favorite Instagram guitar players, or whatever, giving out free, things on music theory and music history, all of that to people to try and, further education and get people back into playing instruments and creating music that is consumed live and over the internet like this. I think it's extremely important. By the way, I have a discount code for today's stream, which I forgot about. RB400. Anything in my store is 30% off. That's how I support my channel. You know, when I get demonetized and everything, this is actually what is able to make me do videos for free on here. And I know I see Freebird on there, and I actually had Freebird in my 20 greatest guitar solos. Now, people were saying, hey, Rick, why didn't you put anything on there after 1981? I think the newest solo I had, thank you, Kevin, on my top 20 guitar solos of all time was Neil Schoen's Stone in Love from 1981, the Escape album. But generally, I almost could have called it the greatest guitar solos from 1969 to 1981. Now, yes, of course, there are great guitar solos by Steve Vai and Joe Satriani and Marty Friedman and all the 80s players. But really, the guitar solo as an entity was kind of born in the 60s and 70s. And it was really developed through improvisation. Now, granted, in the 80s, a lot of the guitarists would have all their solos worked out. Okay, and but the 70s, thank you, James. The 70s was a time, and the late 60s was a time for jamming. Okay, if you went to see Led Zeppelin play, and they were playing Heartbreaker, Jimmy Page was not playing the same solo. He might have started the same way, but it would always go into different directions. Thank you, Dropkick Chester. Appreciate that. I've not heard of Alejandro. No, I've not heard of him or her. I assume it's a him. Thank you, Jackie. Appreciate that. So I think that the way that music is being consumed obviously is different. The charting of yesteryear, which was, let's be honest, it was driven by money, by payola, things like that. A lot of times the books were cooked in, on the Billboard charts, and people were paid to chart higher. This stuff's been going on forever. Just like Spotify now is owned by a bunch of major labels, and there are gatekeepers that go on to Spotify that keep people, that bring people on and take people off, and it's just kind of the new way that's the new hierarchy in the music business. The people that run those are the Clive Davises of yesteryear, or the Donnie Einer, or any of the people that were the music label, Ahmet Erdogan, people like that. People that ran music labels, the big producers, the Jimmy Iovines that brought people in, that signed them, that helped them develop their career. Thank you, Jimmy. Appreciate that. So I think that payola never dies. That's Jason. That's a great. that's funny. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Keegan. Appreciate that. But this is actually the best time for music, I believe. You can't make money in the same ways that you could make money. Thank you, Angus. That you could make if you were, the Rolling Stones or the Beatles or things like that. There's not that kind of where you get a major label record deal. I mean, this really started dying out. Wow, thank you to everybody that's contributing here. This is really fantastic. And by the way, I will get back to what makes this song great videos. I've been asked that a lot lately. But people contributing or putting out their music through the internet is, I mean, it's the best way to get heard out there. It just is. Look, 3 years ago, I had 200 subscribers on my YouTube channel. I did, that's just a fact. I mean, I had less than that. I had less than 100. And I started out with just one subscriber, my mom, where I sent videos of my kids, okay? I didn't know that YouTube was going to be something that I had 1 million subscribers on. I mean, this is just unbelievable, right? I see people keep mentioning Sturgill Simpson and a lot of the big country artists that have come up through, a lot of them through my good friend Dave Cobb, who produced all those records up in Nashville, whose band I produced, his first band back in the 90s. The country music has not been immune from this either. But country music is healthier than rock music, at least as far as the guitar is concerned. But the guitar is doing unbelievably well here in Instagram. I'm going to be doing another Instagram video on my favorite guitarist on Instagram. I mean, there's just some incredibly creative, like Pete Townsend said, incredibly creative players out there that are playing things that just have never been played before. They are. It's a fact. There are young kids or people in their 20s and 30s that are playing things that are, really expanding the boundaries of the instrument. And I think that it's extremely exciting. Braden, I have mentioned Big Wreck before. Ian Thornley, I follow on Instagram. You guys should follow Ian Thornley. He's the guitarist and singer of Big Wreck and is an amazing guitar player. Wow. And he can improvise. Okay. And I saw here on Mateus Asato's another guitar player. I already did a video on my favorite. I picked 10 of my favorite Instagram guitar players. I've got another 10 that are incredibly great players that I'm going to feature in a video coming up. So with the death of people like Ginger Baker, this article argues that the people aren't being replaced, but they're just not being replaced in the same way because music is not being consumed in the same way. Now, I talked about the other day going to see King Crimson play and how amazing they were. It's a bunch of guys in their 70s that are up there playing they had younger drummers out playing in front. But, that's something different. This was, there was 2,500 people there, 3,000 people there. It was amazing. People got up and applauded after every song. It's, it was exciting. But, to see young people doing things through a different venue, mainly Instagram and YouTube, is extremely exciting to me as a musician. It gives me a lot of hope for the next generation. Sean just asked here, thank you for the super chat. Can you request a Marty Friedman episode? His approach to music is cool. So you guys know, some of you know, I've interviewed Marty on this channel, and Marty and I go way back. We've been friends for 20 years this year. We've been friends, and we're actually trying to do a video together. And it's difficult because Marty lives in Japan, but we're gonna actually do a video together. So I love Marty's playing. I played with Marty every day for 5 weeks when my old band was on tour with Megadeth, and it was incredible. I love his playing. So I would encourage you guys to support people however you can. You're supporting me here through Super Chat. If you buy something through my store, discount code RB400, it's 30% off anything in there. That's how I support my channel, so I can make videos for free for you guys out there, and hopefully influence people and teach them whatever skills are necessary to help them write better songs, help them improvise better, in whatever it is. But that key component there, improvising, I will not stop harping about that. I mean, I think that's the thing that this is the only thing that a lot of the young players that I watch are lacking. Not all of them, but a lot of them, they don't want to stretch out and they want to compose all their solos. If you compose all your solos, you cannot make each night unique. This is where jam music excels. This is why Ginger Baker was important. Cream was important. Eric Clapton was important. It was constantly different. Okay? Now, that's not to say that all rock music was improvised. The Beatles had their solos worked out for the most part. They did, but but the Stones improvised, and Cream and Zeppelin improvised. It really depended on where they were coming from, what time period they were, and really the structures of the songs. Okay. So, but I would, thank you, Liquid's back. Can't decide what subgenre to play. Play all of them. Death metal, thrash, doom, any tips? Well, if you're going to play doom, you need to get yourself a Sun Model T like I have over there. There are hold on. I gotta get rid of somebody here. There we go. I don't take insults from Danky McSwag. That's a good name, at least. Anyhow, so that's what I say. Try to improvise as much as possible. One of the highlights of the Crossroads Festival was here we go. Marcus King, who was great. It's one of the best times I've seen Marcus play a few times. He's a young kid from South Carolina, and he was just killing it. He sounded great. It was really, really exciting. You can see why his band has done really well. And that's it. When you go see John Mayer, you may not like John Mayer's music, but John Mayer is a great guitarist. You may not like Joe Bonamassa, but Joe Bonamassa is a great guitarist, and these guys can improvise. They can really rip it up. Let's see here. Another super chat. Begalius. Music is language first. We, the Gen X, are there to teach. Making music like Bob Ross makes painting. The instance should be recorded. Exactly. Totally agree. Mark Bundy. Rick has an ear for music, but not for reading, because I just lost it. And eyes for band hammering. Nice. I was like, where'd that go? Ran into Bonamassa at a music store a few weeks ago. So there it is. That's kind of my take on this. I really think that this article is really worth reading, though. I think it's the coming death. It was in The Week. The coming death of just about every rock legend is actually the name of the article. It's by Damon Linker. Okay, I just think it's interesting to read. It puts it in perspective that just to see to see these people's age. Ginger Baker was 80 years old. I mean, that's a full life. That's, for how these guys lived, that's a long time. It's amazing he made it that far. Eric Clapton, I got to tell you, was incredible last week when I saw him play. I mean, he was really, really great. And he hasn't been out playing. He did an acoustic set that was, it was so well played, well sung, everything. Peter Frampton sounded great. And he and Clapton played together for the first time, which I couldn't believe. Peter Frampton is 69 years old. Still sings every song in the original key. But we need to have people to replace these guys, you know, and they are out there. They may not be in bands that have hit songs on the radio or on Spotify, but there is rock music that's out there that that you can find that is incredibly interesting and vibrant and has all the same kinds of excitement, youthful excitement that music did from the 60s. But it's being consumed in a different way. Now, I will tell bands here, I'm not talking about bands like Tool that have been around for 20 years. If I were in a band, okay, if I were in a band now, I would, and this is advice for you, for those of you that play music. Social media is here, okay, and it's free. And you can promote yourself here. It's really, as good a content as you can make here. That's how you're going to drive people towards your music. And frankly, what's the last time? Thank you, Go-Karts. When's the last time you saw a video, or an actual video by a YouTuber that had 300 million views? Well, none of them do. No videos by YouTubers. Why do music? But if you look at a music track on YouTube, you say, "Oh, it's only got 300,000 views. Must not have been a big hit." You know, it's odd because you'll see songs that have 1 billion plays because the same people listen to a song 100 times on YouTube or on Spotify, right? So they get massive view counts. Whereas when you watch a video, you watch one of my videos, you'll watch it one time probably, unless it's something on modes like I just did yesterday that you have to stop the thing. Now, speaking of that video from yesterday on modes, somebody wrote to me and said, "Oh, well, you're not being honest. You can't really learn this stuff in 10 minutes or this is too fast, whatever." I said, you do realize that there's a pause button on YouTube. You can pause videos, okay? You can rewind, you can fast forward, and you can go into slow motion. I don't know if everybody knows that. You hit the wheel that's on there and it can go 0.75, 0.50. It can slow down anything. And that's, I don't know if people realize that. If people watching this realize you can slow down YouTube videos, okay? Any fast licks that you want to learn, whether it's on my channel, whether it's on Rick Graham's channel, whether it's on, a Joe Satriani lick, a Steve Vai lick, anything, go to slow motion. We didn't have that. We had 16 on the record players, right? But you can see where the people play it. The thing when you used to do it on record players in the old days is that it was down an octave and it would get really confusing. It's like, wait a minute, what octave am I in? Hold on. Oh, so I have to play it up the octave because it's at half speed. So it was always weird to use 16. I tried not to use it too much. Plus it always would screw up your records and scratch them, right? So you'd have your record that you'd be learning all your solos off, and by the time you're done learning a solo, the tune is wrecked and you have to go buy the record again. So anyhow, so this is another great thing about YouTube. That's to me one of the things about Instagram, that you don't consume music in the same way, and it's only a minute long. But Instagram is great for what it is, and I think it's a great place for improvisation. That's why I put a lot of improvisations up there. And my video from yesterday was some new videos and then a few of my improvisations, probably 3 of my improvisations from YouTube that were in particular modes. Okay, if you want to learn more about those modes, check out my Beato book. It's on sale, 30% off anything in my store. RB400 is the discount code. This is how I support my channel. This is how I come on here and talk about, everything from Ginger Baker to rock music to improvising to gear, whatever. I've got some new videos coming out. I'm going to interview the drummer Antonio Sanchez this week, who is one of the greatest drummers in the world. He did the soundtrack to Birdman that came out about 3 years ago or so. That's an amazing soundtrack. And so I'll be interviewing him. So anyhow, this is... Okay, I got a couple other things here. Sean said, let's see, Rock and Roll Redneck, thank you. Sean says, you requested a Marty video. Also hope you release a Rick's mixtape and point us towards some new talent. I will. And I will do this. I'm going to do the continuation video on other people that you guys should follow on Instagram and on YouTube. I'm going to make a video, 2 separate videos on that, on people that I follow and people I think you guys should follow. Okay, so that's all for today. Remember, discount code RB400. Like I said, I support myself, my family, and this channel to do free content on here. My last video that I did with the top 20 guitar solos, I got 12 copyright infringement things. So that means 12 artists are splitting all the money from my video, which is pretty hilarious, right? But I guess they'll take it wherever they can get it from. And I don't care. I'm not gonna make content that thank you, George. I'm not gonna make content that I don't want to make just because I'm trying to make a few bucks through views. Okay, that's all for now. You guys are the best. Once again, Ginger Baker. It's so sad to hear about his passing, and I wanted to get on and talk about that and talk about rock music. You guys are awesome. We'll see you later.